We just got confirmation that UFC 286 in March is happening in London, and they said that they're going to make it the biggest card they've ever done in the UK, which means it's going to have a lot of talent, a lot of great fights, and all of it. Knowing what happened in that London card earlier this year, still being one of the best cards I've ever seen in my entire life. That fight night card was pay-per-view worthy 100%. But we have no confirmed fights. There are no official fights on the card right now, and that's what I want to get into. I know I should probably wait a little bit, but I'm way too excited about it. Let's build that London card, but first, a word for our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends, the best mobile game out there, and everybody's playing it. I'm having a blast leveling up my champions and playing against other players. My favorite champion that I'm leveling up right now is Martyr. Very powerful champion, and she has a sort of style that I like for the game. And Raid has a special deal for us, especially combat sports fans, which is completely free. You can get the new legendary champion, Ronda Rousey, yes, it's actually Ronda Rousey, for free right now. Whether you're new or you've been playing for a while, you can still get her by just logging into Raid and just play for 7 days between now and February 20th. Do that and Ronda is all yours. And to celebrate this, you can also get the special promo code RAIDRONDA, which is available for all players, and you're going to get some helpful items here. A 3-day 100% XP boost, 500,000 gold, and 5 full energy refills. This is going to be perfect to level up Ronda, and you're going to quickly see how powerful she can be. Wipe out whole teams with her Fury Tremor ability, or focus down on one enemy with her Flaming Flurry, or Phase Rushdown. Ronda is especially going to feel very powerful in any team that you want to put together. Also, to go with this, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can get exclusive rewards in Raid right now. And here's another offer. If you're new to the game, if you haven't played it yet, click my link in the description below, or you can scan my QR code here on screen, and you'll get unique bonuses worth $30. That includes a free epic champion, Vergus, who's actually one of my favorite champions in the whole game. You also get 200,000 silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon other awesome champions in the game. All this is going to be waiting for you in your inbox here, and it's available for 30 days for new players only. Again, all you have to do is click the link in the description below, or just scan the QR code here. So the main event is most likely going to be the trilogy, Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman 3, where Leon, the only UK champion right now, is going to be defending his belt at home against one of the greatest welterweights of all time. Let's see who can do it again, who can repeat the past. Can Leon get a win over Kamaru, or will Kamaru get revenge, continue what he was doing up until the 5th round of the rematch? And it's crazy how everything turned out so well for Leon, where it seemed like he was the most overlooked UK fighter on the roster. And now after becoming champion, everybody's starting to notice him. There was a lot of hype on guys like Darren Till, right now it's Paddy Pimblett, Jimmy Manuwa, and only one time Leon was actually picked to headline a card in the UK, and that was when he was supposed to fight Tyron Woodley back on March 21st of 2020. And every other time they went there and Leon was on the card to fill up with UK talent, he was on the prelims. Leon Edwards was never on the main card up until he was supposed to headline it, and that fight didn't even come to fruition. He was never really known until he won the belt, and finally now he gets the kind of recognition that he deserves. But hopefully all turns out well for him, and if he just loses to Kamaru, I have a feeling a lot of people are just going to forget about him. They're going to look at that rematch like it was a lucky knockout, Kamaru was winning the majority of the fight and all of that. And honestly, looking into that championship fight, it can go that way. Kamaru can absolutely continue the work that he was putting in that rematch. And there could be no moments from Leon Edwards. That can absolutely happen here, where Leon just gets shut out from beginning to end, as a lot of people expected going into the second fight. What could also happen here is Usman is shot, because he's never been knocked out before. He is older, and he was knocked badly unconscious. So an older fighter getting knocked out like that sometimes will not come back the same way. His body may not want to take that kind of punishment ever again, and it will shut off faster than last time. There's a lot of X factors going into this because of that, but I will have to say that for the majority of the fight, at least stylistically on paper and what we've seen in the past when they fought each other, Usman is just such a difficult fight for Leon Edwards. His wrestling in general causes so much disruption on what Leon is trying to do, and even there were moments where Kamaru was putting it to him with his hands, somewhat sloppy punches for sure, but even those kind of sloppy punches, because of the threat of the takedown, is going to get that respect out of Leon, and there are times where Leon's going to be in a defensive shell. Maybe he comes out there with a little bit more confidence, becomes a little bit more aggressive against Kamaru Usman, but it's very hard to imagine Leon winning this fight on the scorecards due to his style colliding with Usman's. Usman's style is much better at winning rounds. He's a lot more active in fights, both in striking and in the wrestling. And the fact that he does both, I would say overall better than Leon does, it's automatically going to give him an advantage in winning on the scorecards. Whereas Leon is going to have to make something magical happen again. He's going to find moments in there to hurt Usman, whether it be catching Usman again, leaning to his right side to evade punches, or maybe start to capitalize a little bit more in the clinch whenever Usman wants to get in there with the elbows and with the knees. Make it more of a Muay Thai fight, and establishing long-range straight punches is definitely going to be the key for him to not only set traps and get Usman to be conditioned, but also to force Usman another way of getting in there, whether it be the wrestling, which is going to become a lot more obvious, or getting to the clinch where now Leon can start capitalizing with his strikes there. It's going to be a very interesting fight to say the least. My early prediction for it, I am going to ride with Usman on this one, but I am not too sure. Now that's the fight that everybody knows will happen, but what about the others? Who else can you put on there to stack it up with? And we're only going to really look at UK talent. Now, he's not going to be on it, but it would have been awesome for Tom Aspinall to be on the card, but it seems like a lot of people have forgotten about him. It seems like he's still recovering from his injury. There's no more surgeries for him left. He just has to recover on his own now. You're going to rehab and all of that stuff. It's a bit of a bummer with how the heavyweight division is looking right now, with the inclusion of Sergey Pavlovich and other fighters. Cyril Gane at the top still there. Tom Aspinall right now would be very much appreciated in the heavyweight division. And another fighter that probably won't make it, but this one is not for sure, we might be able to still see him, is Jack Shore. Jack Shore is looking amazing right now, undefeated. He's ranked in the top 15, and he is battling a knee injury, but he did say that he's not going to be able to fight at the end of 2022. But does that mean he's out of commission for 2023? He hasn't really talked about it, so if he is able to come back, the fight that needs to happen is between him and Adrian Yanez, another top 15 fighter who is putting together some of the most entertaining striking performances of any young fighter right now. Adrian Yanez's boxing specifically is just looking on another level. It's very aesthetically pleasing to watch. High velocity punches, chained together and attacking the body and head in rapid fashion the way he does. It's so dangerous. His offense in general is such a threat for most of the bantamweights. It would take someone so defensively minded like Jack Shore to be able to at least put a bit of resistance against that, with also implementing his own counter-striking that would make even Adrian Yanez have to respect it. Jack Shore is a lot more slow-paced in his approach, whereas Adrian Yanez is fast-paced, so that contrast of styles would be very entertaining to watch in general, but it's going to force Yanez to start picking out his shots more, as Jack Shore is going to look to counter him. Jack Shore has an excellent switch body kick, great punches on the back foot, and his clinches are always there to neutralize the action. But as soon as he starts to get Yanez to respect his counter-striking, his clinches are probably not going to be as effective in the fight, and it's going to become much more of a striking match, where I do know that Jack Shore would probably try to take it to the ground whenever he sees an opportunity to. But as soon as Adrian Yanez starts to establish that jab, I think the fight starts to turn into his favor more and more. Instead of whipping the left hook, that jab alone is going to exploit a lot of Jack Shore's openings. And that's where you would see a lot of Yanez's combinations starting to land. Cutting off the cage is going to be key for him, as well as establishing that jab. And ultimately, an early prediction of this kind of fight would definitely have to go to Adrian Yanez, but it would be a close one. But in terms of a co-main event, if they don't have another championship fight, a perfect co-main event would be Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen. This just makes all the sense in the world to make right now. As you have Yair Rodriguez versus Josh Emmett for the interim belt, Max and Arnold Allen are the other two guys in the top 5, and they never fought each other before. It would also be a perfect fight for Arnold Allen to claim his title shot after that kind of win. But man, that would be very difficult for him. Firstly, Holloway's coming off a big loss to Volkanovski. I mean, he got beaten in that fight bad, but he did take some time to recover. And Arnold Allen's on a roll right now. He's currently on a 12-fight win streak, undefeated in the UFC, hasn't lost in the last 8 years, and he's one fight away from a title shot. Coming off a win against Kelvin Kattar, which had an unfortunate ending with Kattar's knee injury, but you do have to give some kind of credit to Arnold Allen using his footwork to evade the knee laterally, causing Kelvin to land wrong as he was trying to hunt him down with the knee. When you're trying to cut off someone's movement with a knee like that, and you turn to face them because they move so quickly the other way, you do have to give some credit to that kind of footwork. And Arnold also absolutely ran through, bulldozed Dan Hooker, unlike anybody's ever done before. And this is a guy who has never knocked anybody out in the UFC before. He had a first-round TKO against Dan Hooker, who probably shouldn't have taken the fight at 145. Way too big for that division. But every tool in Arnold's toolbox is going to have to be used against Max Holloway. This is a different level of competition. different level of fighter. Hooker, Kelvin, these guys are good fighters, but they do not compare to Max Holloway in almost anything they do. I mean, Max showed that he was a superior boxer to Kelvin Kattar. He showed it in their fight. Dan Hooker is not a better kickboxer than Holloway. Holloway can also try to take you to the ground. He has decent Brazilian jiu-jitsu, an iron chin that no one's able to crack, has volume for days, can keep up at a fast pace for 5 rounds, easy. Hard guy to take to the ground in general, good takedown defense, switches stances all the time, and one of the only fighters in the featherweight division that can match Arnold Allen's footwork. If you can match that kind of footwork, it does leave Allen with a bit of an issue because his footwork is his biggest asset. It's not flashy or anything, but he moves so well away from your shots and gets into the correct positions to land his counter shots or just evade your pressure almost every single time. And you're starting to see his hooks really land on a target when the opponents overextend on him to try to catch him. But that's the problem here. That's why I do believe that Max is a very difficult style for Arnold Allen to compete against. It's the fact that he doesn't overextend. He doesn't throw power punches. Everything is very precise with subtle movements. And there's not going to be a lot of room for Allen to counter some big punch, counter the overextension, and use his footwork behind it. This is the kind of guy who's going to keep up with his footwork, keep up with his angles, and fire at him with combinations instead. Allen's approach in this one is going to be a bit different. If he wants success, he has to trade with him. He has to approach the fight kind of similar to how he approached it against Dan Hooker. He did show a nice exchange against Ricardo Lamas back in the day, but for the majority of his fights, whether it be Alexander Volkanovski in short bursts, or against Dustin Poirier in general, or against Yair Rodriguez in longer exchanges, even though Max is not bad there, those seem to be some of his biggest vulnerabilities, and he's there to get hit. Even Kelvin Kattar, when they fought each other, had the most success when he was being aggressive and meeting Max head on. That is something that we've seen Allen do before, but it's not his usual style. So ultimately, my early prediction for this fight, I would go with Max Holloway to win this on a, let's say, a late TKO or even a decision in a 5-rounder. Hopefully the fight would be 5 rounds. It would be a kind of fight that would make sense to be 5 rounds. If it's 3 rounds, it actually helps Allen even more. Now, there's 2 fights that would make sense to put on the card, but we have to see how they compete this Saturday. I think regardless, you have to put them both on. Firstly, it would be Darren Till. Darren Till would have to be on the card no matter what, unless he gets injured or something. Win or lose on Saturday. And it would depend win or lose. If he wins on Saturday against Dricus du Plessis, I think he should fight Roman Dolidze. I think this would be an excellent fight. Not only will Roman have a hard time taking Till to the ground, but it's a kind of striking match where Darren Till would not be able to make it a chess match too much, as Roman comes in there with power shots. He comes there to take your head off with every single punch. He is a bit patient to pick his shots off, but I do think the striking match would definitely favor Darren Till, as a singular punch exchanges is more of what Darren Till is all about, right? That's more of his style. But as we've seen in the past, man, you could kind of get him to fall into certain kind of punches if you set the right traps, and also if you present takedown threats. And now we've seen how good Roman is on the ground. He got a position on Jack Hermanson that I've never seen someone do before. That calf slicer, back take, or whatever that is. Even Jacare Souza could not get something like that off on Hermanson. Shows how special Roman Dolidze is. If he gets Darren Till to the ground, the fight is probably over. And that should definitely be his focus on the fight. Don't strike too much with a technical Muay Thai fighter. Presenting power punching threats in order to find openings for the takedown would be excellent for him. And actually, the takedown threat itself might open up power punches for him to land. And those power punches can eventually open up takedowns for him to land with. So there is a lot going for Roman Dolidze in terms of making it a complete MMA fight. But just the striking by itself, and also knowing that Darren Till does have decent takedown defense, initially in the fight before Roman gets anything figured out, it's going to be a pretty tough one for him. So you're going to see some fight IQ here. You're going to see some strategy, power punches from both of them when it comes to their stand-up. That would be an excellent fight to see, man. But ultimately, I do favor Roman Dolidze to win it. I think he'll have trouble in the first round, as he's starting to set things up to get it to the ground. But once he gets it to the ground, and I think he will because he is the bigger fighter, and we know Till sometimes can have a problem with bigger wrestlers, as soon as Roman gets this fight to the ground, I think he does finish it, however he really wants. Now, if Darren Till were to lose this Saturday, I think the fight that would make the most sense would be Darren Till and Chris Curtis, who is also fighting this Saturday as well against Joaquin Buckley. And this one would be a lot more tailor-made for Darren Till's kind of style, where Chris is definitely going to attack him on the feet, a bit of patient with his footwork, but a menace when he starts throwing his hands. And he could put Darren Till out at any single moment of the fight. If he gets Till backing up to the cage and cuts him off effectively, Till's going to be in a whole lot of trouble because he doesn't move his head that much. He usually tries to clinch up with you, and that's his sort of defense. Against Chris Curtis, he could definitely get tagged for that. But if you cannot get Till backing up to the cage, I see Till running laps around him, jabbing him in the face, countering him with his left hand, attacking aggressively with his left hand, even though it would leave him vulnerable for Curtis's counter shots. The length and the footwork from Darren Till would be his key to victory here, and I would favor him in that kind of fight. The other fight that's going to be on the card no matter what, if he wins or loses this Saturday, is Paddy Pimblett, of course. Paddy Pimblett, regardless of what happens, most likely is going to fight on that London card. They're going to need him on there because win or lose, they're going to love to have him there. And no matter what, he should be fighting Terrance McKinney, regardless. Terrance McKinney is fighting January, but if this kind of opportunity comes up, I'm pretty sure he's going to take up the offer. McKinney is blowing through these guys very quickly, and he's not suffering really any kind of injuries. He's looking really good in his fights and making them look easy. So this fight absolutely needs to happen no matter what. They're both not ranked. They're both getting built up. Terrance McKinney had his shot against Drew Dober, made some mistakes here and there, just like any young fighter would. But the thing is, he's most likely learned from those mistakes, and he would make a fight with Paddy Pimblett a lot more exciting to watch, as Paddy is a crafty grappler and really dives in for your neck at any opportunity given to him. So even if Terrance McKinney takes the fight to the ground, which he does in almost every single one of his fights, he's going to have to really watch out for some of those submission attempts, from the triangles to the guillotines. Everything Paddy throws up at you is dangerous. But Terrance McKinney has a complete advantage when it comes to the striking. So you could kind of see this as a striker versus grappler matchup, where the striker in this one actually dictates where the fight goes, which is a very interesting dynamic of it. You don't usually see the striker have better wrestling than the grappler. And Terrance McKinney is that guy that does. He actually has more of a wrestling background. He's the bigger fighter. He's a stronger fighter. He has better takedowns in general. He has better distance management and really picks off his shots very accurately from that distance with his rather awkward striking style. They're both awkward on the feet, but Terrance McKinney is a lot more effective with his awkward style. Paddy's just reckless, right? Paddy's just swinging haymakers at you for the most part, and anything can really happen when a fighter does that. But I do think Terrance McKinney would win this kind of fight due to straight being looping punches, and also with the fact that he needs one punch to put your lights out. Paddy can do that, but he definitely does not have the same kind of power than Terrance McKinney does. And the last fighter that would need to be on the card is absolutely Muhammad Mokaev, who is now inside the top 15, and he's so young, it's crazy to see him already ranked. And honestly, the fighter I would love to see him in there with is Manel Kape. Manel is just a powerhouse, puts everything into his shots. Flying Ease will come out there. He is a little bit more patient than before, and he's finding success with it. And he has some explosive takedown defense that could be interesting against Mokaev, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, Mokaev's wrestling might be too much. And that's not only going against Manel. Mokaev's wrestling in general is an issue for almost every single fighter in the whole top 15. You're not really going to see guys in this division wrestling at the level of Mokaev right now. But Manel's explosiveness should prove to be very interesting on any mistake that Mokaev makes. If Mokaev makes an early shot or a late shot or throws some big punch, I mean, he has some issues in his last fight, Manel could put his lights out. And that threat, the danger, is the reason why I would love to see this one specifically. Because if you put him against other guys like Jeffrey Molina or even Tim Elliott or Albazi or Schnell, Mokaev runs through them because there isn't that much danger compared to what Manel can bring. But ultimately, yeah, I would have to make an early prediction that Muhammad Mokaev wins, but it's so dangerous. And that's pretty much it. Those are the biggest talent in the UFC roster coming out of the UK. I would love to have Paul Craig, but Paul Craig's fighting already. He's most likely not going to be able to fight there. These are your only real available talent at the moment. And if you were able to put these fights together like this, it would be an excellent pay-per-view card, 100%.